Welcome to Friday Takeaway. I'm Khoo Chuang, joined by Charlotte Chong, the lovely Charlotte Chong. It is Friday, 22nd July, Charlotte. Hooray, it's official. Donald Trump will be the next Republican Party nominee. Fantastic news, or not?
So the next news will be Hillary Clinton likely to be the nominee of the next party, Democratic Party.
Yeah, 1 and 2 chance that Donald Trump will be the next president of the US, which is very worrying. Moving on to the Malaysian situation, we've had the Central Bank of Malaysia cut interest rates by 30 basis points. And very swiftly after that, Malaysian banks like CIMB, M-Bank, AFIN, RHB, BSN, Maybank, they've all cut in unison. Very
I think for the next few weeks, we will probably see more banks cutting down their rates in line with what happened with BNN for the last week. 3%, 3.5% to 3%.
That's right, yeah. Two factors, I think. One is, of course, concern that the ringgit is appreciating against the dollar. And secondly, that growth is slowing down for the rest of the year. Also, very good news on the auto sector. Very quickly, the Perodua Beza was launched. A nice round number in terms of sales. I think at that level of the market, there's quite a lot of demand in terms of, affordable motoring and affordable cars.
Probably we will see, national car makers getting more market share and in the second half of this year. In 5 days itself, just 5 days before the launching, this Perodua Pesa actually got 4,028 bookings in just 5 days.
Exactly, and in a few minutes we'll tell you what counter is benefiting from that particular sales bounce. On to the KLCI, and we've had as at 10 o'clock this morning, 1,654 points on the KLCI. Exactly the same level as it was last week. Not much gyration in between. I think really the coming off of the stock markets in response to the 8 or 9 consecutive days of gains on the S&P 500. So corporate earnings there are very strong, and I think we're seeing a bit of a profit taking today.
Actually, it dropped a little bit today, this morning, 1,654 from last Thursday closing 1,654.78 points. Now that was because 1MDB news coming out for the past few days.
Yes.
What happened was US prosecutors, they say they are going to seize more than $1 billion of 1MDB assets, right? Yeah,
so at last, the hero in our midst. If we can't get justice in Malaysia, maybe we can get justice out of America. And the Singaporeans as well are looking to restore 240 million Sing of assets back to their rightful owners, maybe. So I saw the front pages of the newspapers. No headlines on 1MDB, no headlines in the Department of Justice, but clearly other jurisdictions internationally are taking this very, very seriously.
Now, internationally wise, earlier this week we saw failed Turkey coup and Italian banking crisis, which would actually affect the whole ECB in the European market.
Yeah, I mean, look, the global situation is very dire, right? We've got the annexation of Crimea by the Russians. We've had, the revolt in Turkey. We've had terrorist attacks with ISIS. Of course, there's a European banking crisis shaping up. I think Deutsche Bank will be the next Lehman. If, when, maybe, how, when, nobody really knows.
And also what happened in France as well. Nice.
Exactly. The Nice attacks. So yeah, very interesting days ahead. And despite all that, stock markets are at a high. I think basically because the dollar and the capital is moving towards safe havens. Let's move along to the Malaysian situation. As you said earlier, Charlotte, there seems to be some activity on the 1MDB front in terms of the US government and the Singapore government doing something to restore assets there. I think it's going to send the right signals to investors.
But US Justice Department, they are being a little bit murky. They say the money was transferred to Malaysian official one. I wonder who this guy is.
I have no idea. I mean, look, if you can tell me who it is, I would be very, very grateful, but I've got no idea.
Now, 1MDB, they say 1MDB was plowed into hotels. The money was plowed into hotels, luxury real estate in Manhattan, Beverly Hills and London, all fine arts, and also one private jet. And most interestingly, in this film, The Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah,
and of course, the producer of Wolf of Wall Street, Riza, is issuing a statement overnight saying, I don't know, the money was a donation from the Saudis. I don't know, right? They've got Monet paintings, they've got condos in New York, they've got, fantastic houses in Beverly Hills, movie rights, and, if they ever sell those assets, at least one thing they've done well, they've bought well, and these are fantastic assets. So,
but the question is, US prosecutors, they say they are going to take all this money back and give it all back to the right. Yeah, I wonder how they are going to give it back to us.
In cash, baby, cash.
Now, Singapore-wise, authorities said on Thursday that they have actually frozen bank accounts holding $184 million, of which $88 million belongs to Lau. Who is Lau?
Yeah, Lau, your good friend, Joe Lau. Mr. Hedge fund manager himself. But hey, we'll have to wait and see how that all pans out. Moving along to the markets and the automotive sector. despite the nice sales bounce on the MAA front. MIDF is cutting, in fact, the MAA themselves are cutting full-year forecast by about 20% to 580,000 units. I think they're citing weak sentiment, lower GDP growth, tight access to credit, even though Perodua's Beza launch was the one bright spark on the horizon.
Research houses like MIDF, TIA Research, they are not very optimistic on the automotive sector as well. They revised their TIV forecast, but what happened in the second half of this year, we will see this new model, Beza, coming out, and in 5 days, like what we said earlier on, in 5 days, Perodua Beza garnered about 4,000 over bookings.
4,028 in 5 days. That's amazing, right? Like, this is something really interesting happening on the car front. At the very low end of the segment, like the Perodua Beza, fantastic sales. At the very high end of the segment where Mercedes is situated, very good sales. In between, nothing, right? Because Mercedes have just had a huge half year.
So, because I think that it's a very niche market for the luxury segment, and people, people will still spend. Rich people, they will still spend. Yeah.
So, are you going to go and buy a Merc now or a Perodua Beza?
Probably later this year.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's going to hold you to it.
Just now you talked about an automotive stock, right? What's that stock?
Okay. Well, the Beza. Basically, if you want to get a proxy beneficiary to the Beza success, you can buy Pekka. And Pekka launched the IPO a couple of months ago. I think they came out at about $1.42. Right now, they're trading about $1.76. Maybank has a target price of $1.95 for an upside of nearly 10%. The reason they're so in vogue at the moment is because they are the sole supplier of leather car upholstery to Perodua. Yeah. So I mean, obviously, I've seen the Beza. Interior is very nice. So if you want to take part in that proxy, you can buy Pekka.
So apart from being the sole supplier of Perodua cars, I think this company also garnered quite a number of contracts overseas. They actually export their products to Netherlands, Australia, Singapore, and United States.
Yeah,
other countries.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll have to watch the stock and see how that goes. Let's also move along to another IPO. You put this stock in, Charlotte, Dancomech. So they make valves, right?
So yeah, what happened was this company was listed yesterday. They are the supplier of industrial valves for the palm oil and gas water sectors in Malaysia. These three sectors, and the MD is very optimistic about these three sectors. They think that in the second half of this year, these three sectors will recover and their stock will go up. And also, of course, their business will be better.
Exactly. Well, they came out to the market at 75 cents. Today, they're trading about 80.5 cents. So a couple of days after their debut, the gains are holding up on volume. So that's usually a good sign for the long term, right? And I guess since they make the bits and bobs that go into important industries, it's something to hold for the long term. Maybe, just maybe.
So they raised about 18 million, 6.5 million to buy new offices and stores. Managing directors say they are eyeing sales growth of up to 20% in the next few years.
Interesting.
Because of the recovery of CPO price and oil price.
Which is 5 times Malaysia's growth, which is interesting, right? 6 out of 10 of their dollars comes from the from the palm oil sector. I think 15% from energy and 5% from water treatment. So quite a nice diversification from that front. Just before we end, Charlotte, let's talk about what's happening next week. Wednesday is when the Malaysian government launches, announces CPI data, inflation. We've seen that number tick up in the last couple of months, so we'll have to see how that pans out for the rest of the week. In the meantime, that's a wrap from us. If you want to get more on The Edge, go to theedgemarkets.com online, or The Edge Weekly, The Edge Daily in print copy form. Thank you for watching. That was Charlotte Chong, myself, Khoo Chong. Good night and good luck.